Oftentimes people wonder what is involved. Why does the divorce take so long? One of the biggest parts of a divorce is the discovery process. The discovery process is really trying to figure out what are the assets, what are the debts, and what are the values that we're going to use when deciding how it's going to get distributed in the divorce. So there are many discovery tools that lawyers will use. One of the most common tools in a divorce is the request for production of documents, which is asking you to produce statements. So in a divorce, the two biggest assets are going to be the house as well as retirement accounts and a business if someone's self-employed. So in those circumstances, you're going to want to gather for your attorney all of your retirement account statements from the date that you separated from your spouse, and you're going to want to save each and every statement from that date until you get divorced, because the values are going to change. You might be adding or subtracting to that account, and you might even be taking withdrawals. If you had that account prior to your marriage, you're also going to want to get the statement showing what was the value at the time of marriage, because you get credit for those premarital contributions. The other big asset, like I said, is the house. In Pennsylvania, normally, unless it's a premarital home, it's going to be valued at the time of distribution. So you're not really going to need to get any information on that until it's time to distribute the home, at which point you're probably going to want to get it appraised. But what you are going to want to show are the mortgage payments that have been made since separation, and also what the mortgage balance is. You don't always get credit for making the mortgage after separation, but you should still gather that information so you can show what you contributed to preserve that asset. The other type of discovery tool that's often used in a divorce are interrogatories. And these are questions that you have an opportunity to ask the other side under oath out of court, related to the assets and debts. And sometimes they're helpful to uncover accounts that you didn't know the other person had. So rather than doing a fishing expedition, you can specifically ask what bank accounts they had. Maybe they have an account with their mother and you don't even know about that because you didn't, you know, you weren't involved in that in the divorce. So in that case, you can specifically ask for the production of those records. Oftentimes, those accounts are just really an account to help the other person, in which case there may be no marital funds, but sometimes people will hide money in those accounts. So it is definitely worth asking the questions about what account exists, and then you can supplement that with your request for production of documents. You may receive them as well in your divorce, and you might be angry that you have to produce all this stuff. The information you have to produce is really things that the other side doesn't have access to. So if they ask you to produce the joint tax return and they have access to the joint tax return since their name's on it, you don't have to produce that. Or if they're asking for joint bank account statements for 3 years, you don't have to go get them because the other side can go get them themselves. But things that they don't have access to, like your retirement accounts, which are always in an individual name, or bank accounts you might have in your own name, those are things that you're going to have to gather. So if you want to keep your divorce costs down, the best thing you can do is, once you've made that decision to get divorced or your spouse made it for you, is to start collecting all of those statements and keeping track every month, because it may be 2 years or more before you actually finalize your divorce, and you're going to need records for all that time since you separated. So that's a little bit about discovery. And if you have any other questions, you can contact our office and we'll be happy to answer them for you.